Hi guys, I wanted to pick up where we left off on our hybrid instruction video. A question that's come up time after time all week long was, what about Wednesday morning? What about these pause days? What am I responsible for? Ultimately, this is a breakdown to show you which departments are responsible for what. Every department will be responsible for 2 hours of office hours, and in an ideal situation, that would be 12 different students for 10-minute blocks. Some teachers may choose to use that to meet with a small group of students that are covering the same content and say, maybe I'll meet with 5 students over the course of 20 minutes, and you can use that and mold that the way that you see fit. If you happen to be a teacher that's in multiple departments, of course you wouldn't need 4 hours of office hours. Maybe an hour in both departments certainly would suffice in that case. Department meetings, we're going to mark off an hour block. Typically wouldn't go for an hour. But to mark off an hour for each department. And as you can see there, not every department's going to meet every single week. The first pause day will be September 2nd. The second pause day will be September 16th, and that's all the further the schedule extends at this point in time. But half of those departments will meet on that given day, similar to what we did in the spring. Half the departments would meet on one day and the other half on the following day. So what is different about the morning routine in 2020? First, the day starts a little earlier. The first bell will sound at 7:30, and all students will leave the cafeteria at that point and will all be given a homeroom. Those homerooms will not just be in the main building, but will also be in the STEM building, in the gym, and we're going to scatter those students as best we can. All students with first periods will report to their first period, and that's where their homeroom will take place, and even the students without a first period will be given a separate homeroom. All teachers at 7:30 should also be in the teacher's lounge in case we would need additional proctoring. As I mentioned in our Zoom call, if you happen to be on that, what we've done in the past I don't think is sustainable, and that's Beth tracking everybody down in the morning. Now that we have 2 different buildings, that task becomes much, much more difficult. So step 1, Beth will send out those proctoring duties early in the morning or the night before. And by 7:30, she's expecting an email response to say, yes, I can take period 1 or period 2 on this given day. Step 2, if Beth doesn't hear from you, she's going to give you a phone call, whether that's to the homeroom that you're assigned or that's the faculty lounge. And we don't want to get to step number 3, with Beth running all around, tracking you down like a dog. We want to avoid that at all cost. Another question that's come up time after time, and I think is a very reasonable question, and that's, what do we do if students don't show up for our Zoom calls? What if they're not engaged at home? All of those things would be an academic response rather than a disciplinary response. I think I've mentioned that before. I would highly encourage all teachers to use participation points to encourage their students to be on a Zoom call, and as well, and to keep records daily of who's on those Zoom calls. If they're not going to be there, they got to get in touch with you one way or the other. If they don't see you in person, then they got to get a hold of you by email. I think that's a very reasonable expectation. And another thing to consider on these Zoom calls is an exit ticket. It may be it will prove challenging to respond adequately to both sets of students, one at home and one in the classroom. One way to ensure that the students are learning, maybe provide them an exit ticket of some sort to answer a question before they leave the room. There's many ways to do that. Adam Crumbush was in school today, showing us the ins and outs of Socrative. Socrative has a lot of neat capabilities when it comes to that, and you can create one exit ticket in that case, and all students in your class, both home and in the classroom, could all participate in real time. Next, all this talk about Zoom. When do I need to use Zoom? Do I need to Zoom every single class? Okay. We need to provide all students access to the classroom. So, as we've mentioned before, teachers have choice in this matter as far as what type of learning model they would like to lead. They can choose a synchronous or an asynchronous model. Synchronous, every single day, live instruction. If that's your choice, then of course Zoom will be required. Zoom needs to be turned on. Those of you that choose asynchronous and would provide an alternate assignment for the students that are at home still will need to be prepared to Zoom in these cases. In the case if a student has opted for online learning, or if a student would happen to be in quarantine, they still will be provided access to the classroom according to their group, the blue group or the gold group, and how that falls within the schedule. But all teachers must become comfortable with the technology of Zoom and be prepared to live stream their classes to those students online. Attendance question. Some teachers had a question regarding, how are we going to take attendance with both sets of students? And this is going to be the approach in the hybrid model. Zoom attendance will be taken, and all homeroom teachers will have to set up those recurring meetings in advance. I don't think they give you on Zoom the ability to set it specific to 7:45. It'll be from 7:30 is typically the start time, and as the host, you can control when that meeting opens. But 10 minutes prior to the late bell, from 7:45 to 7:55, that Zoom attendance can be taken, and all of those things are going to be recorded in PowerSchool. So all students will be accounted for by the time that that 8:04 bell rings and class is to begin for the day.